I honor myself and my body by being still. Friend, what if I told you that stillness is sacred, not lazy? What if I said that the real fear isn't what happens when you stop, but what happens when you finally listen? Let's unpack it today. Are you ready? Get set. Let's grow. Doom, doom, doom. Friends, welcome back to another episode of From the Ground to the Crown. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome to our podcast community. And if you are returning, welcome back, friend. From the Ground to the Crown is a podcast community where we grow with intention, elevate our mindset, and step into the highest version of ourselves unapologetically. I'm your host, your girl, Kenesha B. And today we're talking about being still. The affirmation for today comes from my Hey Friend Hey affirmation card deck, daily affirmations for a friend, okay? And the affirmation card says, being in constant motion tells the body that it doesn't deserve to rest. Those are lies, friend. Honor yourself, your life, and your body by being still. And the affirmation that we're holding on to today is, I honor myself and my body by being still. Listen, stillness, this topic, the way that we're going to discuss this today, it's not about just rest. It's not just about rest. It's about remembering who you are beyond what you produce. A lot of times people ask us, right, who are you? And we'll run down the list of all the titles and the accolades and the things that do not truly embody who we are. And sometimes we can't even answer that question, who are you? Because we haven't even stopped long enough to examine that truth for ourselves. And that is what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about the fear of being still. I want to talk about not just equating stillness to rest, but to our remembering, to reconnection, to our intuition and our discernment, to allowing our bodies the privilege to stop sometimes, to recalibrate, to integrate, to do all the things that we need to do in order to evolve into the highest version of ourselves. And I want to acknowledge, right, that stillness can be very terrifying. I know at one point it was for me. And I know, especially for Black women in this world, like we have been taught that rest is not something that we can embody. It's something that we need to earn, right? And that is so far from the truth. And a lot of my work in these recent years has been to connect women, more specifically Black women, to rest being their birthright. And I want to give a shout out to my big sis, Jazz, who has taught me so much about rest. We used to co-host an event in Atlanta called A Siesta Siesta, and she's been doing this work for many, many years. She is really an expert in this area. And because of her, I've learned to embody rest, not because I've earned it, but because I'm alive and I've worked hard enough. And even if I didn't work hard enough, just by being grants me the privilege of rest. And so I'm so grateful for you, Jazz, for how you've taught me. And I hope that this episode makes you proud, because a lot of what I'm sharing today comes from what I've learned from you. Okay, y'all, let's keep going. So in today's episode, we're really getting into the fear of being still. Like I said, we'll talk about why that fear is valid, where it comes from, and how we reclaim our rest as a form of resistance, healing, and alignment. Because hello, we're here to get it together. So let's examine this, right? So let's get into it. Welcome to Root and Rise, a segment where we take a thought that once had us stuck deep. We dig into the root of it, and then we elevate it and look at it from a crowned perspective. I want to kick off the root segment today with 2 questions that I want us to hold on to as we discuss and share today. The first question is, what early messages did I receive about rest? And how have they shaped the way I see stillness today? Girl. Yeah, because it's coming from somewhere. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that today. The second question is, when I'm not doing anything, what emotions or thoughts come up for me? And what might they be trying to teach me? Because as you know, as a spiritual being in a human body, the body is a machine. It's a supercomputer. And it sends you messages if you are still enough to pay attention to them. And I want to encourage you to listen to this full episode, to share this episode, because there's a gem in here to remind you and others that you deserve to listen to your body enough to know what it wants and to provide it what it wants so that it can help you on your journey. That's like one of the bigger thoughts behind this stillness podcast episode. All right. Keeping on with the root. So if you don't know this about me, and I'm sure many of you do, I am a New Yorker. I'm not just like a regular New Yorker though. I'm like born and raised, a queen from Queens, right? Like I'm in it to win it. And I embody the hustle of a New Yorker at one point in time. 13 different jobs, always doing something, Monday through Sunday, booked and busy. It is just what we do. And I want to say something out there for people who have visited New York or have this, and I want to throw this out there for people who have this assumption about New Yorkers. If you're not from New York, you won't understand it this way, but I like to invite this perspective for people who misjudge New Yorkers. People classify us as angry and mean and rude and busy, and that's not true, right? That is an aspect, it's a truth about a lot of New Yorkers. But what you don't understand about the underbelly of a New Yorker is that we are constantly in survival mode. It's that our lack of space to just be still builds this thing in us that makes us a little more grittier than other people. And it has helped us navigate living in such a small city with many people, many things. There's so much movement in New York. It's constant go. And it doesn't allow for people to get in touch with their soft. It doesn't allow for people to get in touch with their intuition, their divine. It doesn't allow you to stop and be still so that you can practice more discernment or so that you can be kinder. It is just constant moving that forces us to be the way that we have to be to survive. And we'll talk about survival mode a little bit later in the podcast episode. But I just really wanted to throw that out there to give you an alternative perspective on New York City and the New Yorkers who are born and raised there, who live there, their entire lives. This is why we move like that, because we don't have time to be still. We just never get a break, even when we're on vacation. It's not a vacation because we're constantly doing. And I didn't learn that I was in survival mode until I left New York. It's okay. New York is my thing. It's my jam. It's who I am. And hustle was a part of my identity. Constantly in motion, understanding that productivity gave me purpose. That was truly what that was. And I didn't, like I said, realize that that wasn't my identity until I switched the locations of where I lived, right? Like even going to college in DC was different for me because although that's a huge city, it's nowhere near as busy as New York. And I found myself with a lot of time on my hands. And what did I do? I filled it with things. And I know I talked about this on another podcast episode that I'll tag it here. I talk about almost having a heart attack at 20. But being in DC and having that experience and even having space to be still, but incorporating more work on top of it because I just didn't feel comfortable with being still. I felt comfortable being busy. That is survival mode. That is unhealthy. And so seeing stillness as uncomfortable, feeling discomfort when I was being still, really triggered something in me that I had to examine, because it's like, as a human, why can't I just sit my ass down somewhere? And I know I didn't introduce the ism to this episode, but that is the ism. Sit your ass down somewhere. Okay? That is what I want you to remember when you think about being still. Just sit your ass down somewhere, please. You are not wrong by wanting to sit still. You are not lazy by taking a beat. You are not unworthy if you rest. You are still you. You are even more powerful than you were before, because exhaustion is exhausting, you know? And so, like I said, I was learning at this time that stillness was still uncomfortable for me. And I didn't know how to just be, you know? I couldn't get it. I didn't feel like Kenesha if I wasn't hustling. Like, I used to tell everybody, I run circles around people's circles. I'm 10 steps ahead of people's 10 steps. That's just how I was raised and how I was bred in the city. And, you know, coming from immigrant parents who figured it out but wanted me to have more. It just was constant go. Even being Black, you know, we're taught that you got to be twice as good as everybody else. And in order to be twice as good, you got to be twice as fast, got to work twice as hard. You got to 10 up everyone else. It's just a constant battle of things that we've learned over time. And like I said, for Black women, stillness can be dangerous. It once was very, very dangerous. You know, our history didn't afford us the luxury of being still. And to this day, we are undoing and unlearning a lot of what was taught to our foremothers and forefathers. Like, this is not just from us, y'all. This is generational trauma that we are healing. And that's why it's so important for us to embody stillness as an act of revolutionary everything. You know, we're taking our shit back, and we're not imposing laziness or lack or weakness because we sit down. That is such a backwards thing. Every other culture invites in rest, whether it's siesta in Spain, even here in Thailand. If you go to certain places, there's like a few hours between like 2 and 5 p.m. where the sun is the hottest, where people will close their shops for an hour, where stores will just shutter it off. The lights are not off, but they're in there. You will see the workers resting. And I love that for them, because they work really hard and the sun is hot as hell, you know? And so the fact that they still can work and make their money and embody taking a beat during the middle of the day, I think is so beautiful and so revolutionary. And, you know, getting back to just like the Black women's perspective, because that's who I am and that's what I know. We've been taught that value is tied to how much we do, how much we produce, not how much we are, you know? And I know I shared on last week's episode around grateful, moving from this thought of being a being a spiritual being, having a human experience. You have to understand what the spirit requires. And the requirement for being a spiritual being is resting and being still and really just honoring your body by allowing it to not do anything. And I know that there's no intrinsic value in that, but there is at the same time. You know, it's so worthwhile to just sit your ass down. Now, let me introduce 2 concepts. Maybe you've heard about them, maybe not. Epigenetics and generational trauma. And I know I mentioned generational trauma a few minutes ago, but let me give this to you. Epigenetics essentially is how trauma can live in our bodies, even if it didn't start with us. And generational trauma is the invisible backpack we carry, full of survival instincts, fears, and beliefs our ancestors passed down to protect us. Let me read that again. Epigenetics is how trauma can live in our bodies even if it didn't start with us. And generational trauma is the invisible backpack we carry, full of survival instincts, fears, and beliefs our ancestors passed down to protect us. Here is the catch. At some point in time, we got to put the backpack down. We have to. We have to take it off because it does not serve us and our highest selves in this life, right? Like I also talked about, on a previous episode, my grandma, she didn't talk to me for a few months when I locked my hair. And we're Jamaican. Locks is the culture. It's like what we do, and she was so upset about it. And at first I was like, girl, get over it. But then I thought about when she was growing up. She was born in the 1930s. She immigrated to the US in her 30s. When she was here, when she was trying to get a job, she couldn't look just any sort of way. She couldn't have locks in her hair if she wanted to be successful. She had to look a certain way. And although that is not my experience because it wasn't the 1960s when I locked my hair, she just didn't have the understanding that time had shifted and that there was some acceptance, even though it's still a fight. There was some more acceptance to natural hairstyles being acceptable in the workplace. And that was one of the generational traumas that she tried to hand down to me, but I rejected. I took the backpack off. I did not see it as a survival instinct. I was not afraid that I wouldn't get a job if my hair was locked. I didn't embody that generational trauma. And we have to be mindful of the backpack that we carry and all the tools that are in that backpack that our ancestors gave us to protect us, but they no longer serve us. Epigenetics is how that trauma can live in our bodies. That is the feeling of discomfort when you sit your ass down somewhere. That is the voice that says you're lazy if you sleep in late. That is the little things that you think are real when you don't work as hard as you usually work. You think that these things will break and crash and burn, but essentially they can't exist. They don't work if you are not rested, if you are not still, if you don't take a break. None of the things exist that pertain to you without you. And how do you continue to keep those things going if you don't even allow your body to just be still? You burn out. You get exhausted. You become meaner. That is the body's response to continuing to push it without pause. It just doesn't feel good inside of you, and it makes you someone that you probably don't even want to be. And so the next time you feel icky about being still, the next time your subconscious is playing your grandma's voice in your head about how you need to get up and clean early in the morning on a Sunday, take a moment, be still, ask yourself, is this an early message that I received about rest? How is this shaping me in the way I see stillness today? Ask yourself, what emotion or thought is coming up right now? And what is it trying to teach me about how I see stillness and rest? What is it trying to teach me about how worthy I think I am of rest? I think of this concept often when I think about stillness, about how the week starts on a Sunday and everyone values Sunday as a rest day, right? But yet we think that we have to work Monday through Friday in order to deserve the rest on Sunday. But Sunday starts the week. So how do we need to earn something that we should kick off the week with? Does that make sense? You should start the week still and rested so that you have the energy and the vitality to work Monday through Friday. That is how it's supposed to be done. That is how we were supposed to taught, not work, and then rest on the weekends so that you could continue to work after that. No, girl. No. Rest first. Rest, embody that. And then you have all of the energy in you to be your greatest self, to be your highest self, to be the self that you can give to the world, to be of overflow so that you can pour into other people. You rest first. And I want you to think about that. When you look at the calendar, think about where Sunday is and think about the work week. Rest first. Then you have the energy to work. Not go, run yourself ragged and then think you have to earn the rest at the end of the week. That is not even the way the calendar is set up, you know? So we want to look at these things. We want to look at epigenetics. We want to look at and examine generational traumas that we hold and that we probably don't even know are running subconsciously in the background. That programming that is just moving us because it always has for generations. Like in my family, I have a lot of strong women in my family. They are worker bees. They will outwork people. And although I used to wear that as a badge, like my family, they work so hard, they do so much. I see it and I have so much empathy for us now because no. You should not just take a 2-week vacation. You should not boast about not taking any days off this year. That is crazy to me. You know, I want the women in my family to know rest, to know stillness. I want them to take breaks and vacations. I want them to take a day off because they feel like it. You don't have to have no plan. You don't have to be doing anything. You don't have to have any appointments. Just because you just didn't want to get up this week, this day, whatever. You deserve that stillness. And especially for women, let me put this thing out there. We go through our menstruals monthly, and some women have it bad as hell, and we never get a break during that. We just don't get the space to be still during a period of the month where it is taking everything for some of us to even just get dressed. It is so exhausting for some women to be on their cycle and to just have to be a parent and be a significant other and go to work and teach. I can't even imagine. And I've done it. And I take breaks. I'm like, don't even talk to me. And so just honor, if you're a brother watching this, just honor women in that way. Honor yourself for sure, but honor women who are constantly in motion, who you never see taking breaks. Honor them by reminding them that stillness is something that is their birthright, that they don't have to earn it, that they don't have to work hard or work enough or earn enough vacation days to be still. Remind them of that. And sis, remind yourself of that because it's true. Stillness wasn't safe for our people. My people wasn't safe for us. You were gonna die if you did not work. Your worth was not deemed of value if you did not work, and they couldn't afford to slow down. And now we've inherited that sense of urgency that we constantly have to be doing. And I want to encourage us to remember that was the story, that truth was a truth. As layered as truths are, we know that is not the story today, that it doesn't have to be the story. And as we transition to the rise part of this episode, I just want to talk about my transitions through stillness. So like I said, at one point in time, stillness felt uncomfortable. It was like not even a thing. Even when I moved to DC and when I was living in LA, stillness was absolutely not a thing. It wasn't until I moved to Atlanta and brought my house that I really found the joy of sitting my ass down. Okay. My house was my first intentional taste of stillness. It was like a sanctuary. I even named my house Namaste because when people would invite me out, I would always be like, nah, I'm gonna stay in the house. Like I loved my house. It was such a beautiful home. And in my house, I eventually bought hammocks. And during the pandemic, Dean and I just spent all of our time in the hammocks, just looking at all of the trees. We had a forest behind our home. And so we just sat out there and we watched the birds and we watched the flowers and we watched the sky. And we just didn't. We just loved not doing. We would be out there with our popsicles. We would be out there with some fruit. We really just valued being in those hammocks. And it brings me such joy to even think about those memories, because I found more of who I was when I sat still. And being in those hammocks, even gardening, like during the pandemic, I really got into gardening and into herbology and into herbalism. And I found such peace in there. Like, I grew so intentionally in my garden, talking to my plants, being with the soil. It just brought me so much happiness to not be running and hustling. And that was my first real taste of the life of stillness. It was foreign at one point, but it was very freeing. You know, stillness will be foreign until it's freeing for you. And when I stopped running in survival mode, I started listening to myself and to my body. And that right there turned me up. I will never go back to hustling, because I understand how freeing being still is. I don't have to hustle to make me feel worthy. I know that my value, my purpose is not in hustling. My purpose is in stillness. It's in stopping. It's in being in the moment. It's in presence. You know, that's where my purpose lies. And I find more of myself when I'm able to be still. So after I moved to Atlanta and I was there for almost 10 years, I transitioned to Thailand, where I live today. And here, that really deepened my shift into stillness, because here they move with efficiency, but they're not hustling. They're not like chaotic with it, right? There is no rush. I mean, you could sit at the restaurant all day and they will just let you sit there. Whereas in the US, people are like bringing you your tab, your check in advance. They're like 45 minutes is tops on this table. In Thailand, no pressure, no rush. Sit your ass down somewhere. Okay. And I finally feel like I'm not forcing my life to happen. I finally feel like I'm just flowing through that. I don't even know what day it is most days. And that's not because I don't need to, but it's because I discovered that stillness is just, the days are going. I can look at my watch and know what day it is, but I don't have to be attracted to time and being constant like this. I don't have to do that to feel good about my life. And I am thriving here. Okay. I discovered that stillness is not the absence of power. It's the amplifier of it. Let me say that again. I discovered that stillness is not the absence of power. It is an amplifier of it. You are your most powerful when you've had a moment to be still. Like meditating in the morning time makes me so much more thorough, so much more productive, so much more present throughout the day. And the days that I don't meditate, I feel it. I can acknowledge that there is a difference there, because I'm just all in my head. It's just so many things, and I can't even like see, like figuratively, I can't see what's happening because I haven't taken a moment to just be still. And so we learned that when we move from different environments, I've learned that when moving from different environments, I can invite more stillness into my mind, into my life, into my body. And that is one of the reasons why we relocated to Thailand, to Bangkok, because even in this huge, busy city, there is still parks everywhere. There is green space everywhere. You could just literally go outside and take a breath and not feel like you're wasting time doing that. You know, and that has afforded me so many deeper benefits to stillness. And I want to share 3 of them with you. The first one is that stillness activates discernment. You start noticing what's real and what's noise when you sit your ass down somewhere. Stillness also sharpens your intuition. Your body and your spirit start speaking louder because it knows that you're listening to it, because you've been still. And it also leads to alignment, because when you're not moving in fear, you're finally able to move in truth. And that is why we're all here, to just be our most truthful, most vulnerable, softest, most aligned, highest selves. That's what we want, truly. And so when you are still, when you value stillness, you start to see those benefits, and it just heightens your life overall. It's just such a beautiful testament to how much better life can and will get for you. And so let's take the time to reclaim the narratives, right? We are honoring ourselves and our bodies by being still. We're telling ourselves that being still does not make us lazy. It makes you wise, because you know what a lot of people are not privy to discover, that your worth is not in hustle, that you have purpose beyond movement, that you are more productive when you are being still. We're also reclaiming the narrative that rest isn't weakness. It's a return to our wholeness. It makes us more of who we are when we're able to sit our ass down somewhere. And I'm going to keep saying that because, yes, we deserve to hear it just like that. Y'all know I don't do sugarcoating, right? You know I like to call a spade, and I like to tell it like it is. I am telling you, let me stare in the camera. Sit your ass down somewhere. I'm going to say it again. Sit your ass down somewhere. This is your sis telling you, as my sis or my bro, that you deserve it. That no one is going to think of, or they may, I don't even know. I don't even want to say no one is going to think that you are weak. People may think that, but who cares about what people will say or think? That is a narrative that's as old as time. Black people specifically are lazy because we don't want to. No, we built nations. We deserve rest. We are the foundation of so much of this world, not just America, the world. To this day, without us, there would be nothing like it is today. And so for the rest of our lives, we should embody rest as a form of a revolutionary love to ourselves and our ancestors who were not able to. Okay, I want to recap really quickly as we round off this episode. I want us to remember these 4 points. The fear of stillness is real, and it's learned. Think back to epigenetics and think back to generational trauma that we talked about. You don't have to perform your worth. You should never feel like you have to perform your worth. You have to embody and know that you are worthy beyond what you produce. When asked the question, who are you? It should not be tied to like a title or educational background or what your job description is. Who you are, your worth is just your being. It's innately inside of you. And in order for you to pull it out, you have to be still. The third thing is, when you rest, you return to yourself. And all that this is in this world is a remembering of who we are. All it is a recall of all the things that we have within. It is a return to being whole. And the last thing is, stillness connects you to your body, to your truth, and to your highest self. And if you're listening to this podcast, if you're watching this episode, I know you want to get there. I know you want to get to a higher version of yourself, that you are committed to evolution. And with that, you have to embody still, being still. It is a requirement, sis and bro. Okay. Like we said, the affirmation for today is I honor myself and my body by being still. And so as you work through stillness and your version of it, reflect on this question. Who am I outside of what I do, produce, or achieve? And some of us, that might be a hard question to answer. I know at one point in time it was for me, but we have to get there. And so I want to invite you to answer that. Who am I outside of what I do, produce, or achieve? Also think about these two. What stories are you telling yourself about rest? And what are you afraid will fall apart if you stop moving? And when you can answer these questions honestly and truthfully, you will see yourself from another perspective, and you will find ways that the narrative from generations before you are still replaying and being programmed into your everyday existence. You will be able to pull them out like, oh shoot, that sounds like something that has been there since slavery. Let me put that here. And that sounds like something that was here when we were, on the farm. Let me put that over here. And this sounds like something that came when we were being abused for just existing. Let me put that over here. It's not for you. Let it go. Take your epigenetic generational trauma backpack off and put it down, babe. And sit your ass down somewhere, okay? I also want to challenge you with something over the next week. Take 10 minutes of interrupted stillness. Start with 1 day of 10 minutes. Just not. Even if you're outside and you're people watching, don't do anything but observe. 10 minutes is all I'm asking you to do. And just notice what comes up during that time for you. Maybe you journal it. Maybe you just make notes in your phone, But really take a moment to explore just 10 minutes a day. And if you can do it for 7 days, that's beautiful. But if you only got one, I'm proud of you too. I would love for you to share your stillness experience with me. Head over to any of the social medias and find me. But if you are on Instagram or Threads, you can @ me at It's Kenesha B. And I want you to share what stillness has brought up for you and what you've learned about yourself and maybe your generational trauma that you'd like to unpack or the backpack that you'd like to take off. I really, really want you to share that with me. Okay, my lovely people. The last thing I want to do is just invite you to honor all of the things that you have in you, because it's a learned behavior, it's a learned experience, and we don't have to wear it all anymore. And so just honor where you are today and be hopeful for tomorrow, because we're growing and we're evolving and the shit is not easy. But it's so beautiful. So take time with yourself, okay? Do not rush it. Man, what a beautiful episode. I love being still now. I love it. I embody stillness. If you see me, I'm probably flowing somewhere with some stretchy clothes on and just living my very best life like a sacred rich girl, because that is the energy that I embody. That is really it for today's podcast, friends. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so grateful that you've been here. As always, if this podcast touched you, if it resonated in every way, I would love for you to leave me a comment, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who also needs the reminder to sit your ass down somewhere, because you deserve it. Period. Absolutely connect with me on social media. Follow me on Instagram at It's Kenesha B. And the podcast Instagram is To The Crown Pod. That's the number 2, The Crown Pod. I'm also on Threads. And yeah, I want to invite you to do something else. If you want to be a part of a more intimate space with me, I would love for you to join my broadcast channel on Instagram. Comment the word join under this podcast episode, under this post, or DM it to me, and I'll send you a link to join my broadcast channel. It's a free channel. It's a free community, so you don't have to pay anything. And I just talk more intimately about certain things in that space, because those people have come to be a part of my community. So if you'd like to do that and you want to talk more about stillness and working through different topics and concepts that we speak about on From the Ground to the Crown podcast, comment join, and I will make sure that you get the link to join the community. All right, beautiful people, honor yourself and your body by being still. Sit your eyes down somewhere. Take 10 minutes to just be, and know that this is a journey that is of evolution, that it is cyclical. You cannot get it wrong. And I'm here to make sure that we do it right together. All right, loves. Thank you so much for being here with me. Another episode. I will see you next week. Last thing I want to share, friends, is this beautiful shirt that I have on. It says Radiate Positivity. And it's from a dope friend that I met here in Thailand named Shane. And Shane's clothing line is called Munchie Merchie. And I wore this today because I embody positivity. This is just who I am. Not for the podcast, not for socials. If you meet me in person, you will feel my energy. And I love this shirt. And so shout out to Shane for the beautiful apparel. She's got tons of things on her site. So head over to munchymerchy.com. That's munchymerchy.com. And Shane is not paying me for this plug. I just appreciate the love and the support, and I want to pay it forward in any way that I can. And so, like I said, this shirt is a vibe. She's got tote bags and all types of things. So make sure you check out Munchy Merchy. All right, beautiful people. That is actually it for this episode. Tap in. And until next time, ready, get set, let's grow. Peace.